Hello there and welcome back to another review. So today we're going to be having a look at the first film that Jackie Chan sort of made with Lo Wei, and that is New Fist of Fury, released here by 88 Films on Blu-ray. This was Jackie's first real leading man sort of starring role. You could count Little Tiger from Canton, but that had a very small limited release back in, I believe, 1973. I think it sort of got re-released, Little Tiger from Canton, I think 79. But obviously film producers and production companies in Hong Kong were trying to fill that gap and that void. You know, obviously what Bruce Lee left when he passed away in 1973. Jackie Chan was not having much luck in regards to film roles. I mean, yeah, he was still getting stunt work and here and there, but like a lot of the Hong Kong stuntmen in the 70s, he would later go on to bigger and better things. I think between the years of 73 and 78 or so, many of them were sort of, they were in that, I think a lot of the performers and stunt players and, Kung Fu stars were sort of in that limbo zone. As I mentioned, everybody was trying to, like production companies were trying to fill that void, that hole, that gap that Bruce Lee left on the market, and that obviously everybody was looking for the new big star, and we had all the Bruce Lee, wannabes, imitators and things like that. So yeah, I think they were sort of in a limbo zone. I believe in Jackie going into back to his parents in Australia to get a job in construction as well, and even waiting tables at one point, I believe, until he got a call from Willie Chan, his manager, who would later go on to be his manager, offering him the lead role in New Fist of Fury. You have to take into account this was made all the way back in 1976. So Jackie was he was only 22 at the time, Jackie Chan. So he was he's very young at the time, and it obviously New Fist of Fury, trying to capitalise on, Fist of Fury with Bruce Lee. He hadn't found his style yet at the time, hadn't found his place, and it was still very much developing his chops, so to speak. And this film is very, very rough around the edges. If you go back to my To Kill with Intrigue review, this and sort of like To Kill with Intrigue, they're not the best from that period of Lo Wei. These are probably two of the sort of not so good ones. As I say, it's very, rough around the edges, and I think that's a very fair comment. And I'm feeling what's great about the film, they do bring back Nora Miao. Of course, you have Lo Wei in the director's chair, like with Fist of Fury. Also quite clever in the way the film does pick up exactly in a way where the last film, Fist of Fury, ends. And it's also it's a very slow build. This movie, it really is. But I think that's what a lot of people have problems with this movie, though. Chan is the lead. A lot of time he is the lead, but a lot of the time you really wouldn't know it. You really wouldn't know it. Chan he doesn't really overly get all that much time to shine and strut his stuff in this movie much until the end. I still don't understand with this movie where they were trying to, obviously capitalise on Fist of Fury. Why Jackie Chan? They gave him actually quite little to do in the movie in terms of fight scenes and everything like that. I mean, it's hats off to them. They didn't go for just a Bruce Lee-esque type character here. Jackie Chan's character is very different to what Bruce Lee would play. We have Chen here as our main villain, who does a fantastic job as Okimura, who you will remember, I'm sure, from the Shaolin plot. He was also in Iron Fisted Monk as well. Worth mentioning on this Blu-ray release, we actually get two different versions of the film. There is a 1980 83-minute cut and the 1976 2-hour version. So as I'm a bit of a purist, I will be reviewing the longer version rather than the shortened version, trying to give you an overall picture of the longer version here today. Obviously, I think the film was sort of re-released after Chan's success with Snake and Drunken Master, cut down to get rid of all the filler and a way for studios to make some quick money on an old movie. Like I mentioned earlier, I think Little Tiger from Canton also got re-released as well. A lot of people say this isn't one of the best films, as I mentioned, from the Lo Wei period, and much like To Kill with Intrigue. I think the main problem with this movie, although it's an okay film, and we can forgive Jackie Chan as he was very young and had a lot of pressures. This was his first real big gig. I think the main problem is you're just constantly as a viewer stacking it up against the original Fist of Fury, and that's not always a good thing to do. But when a film was obviously so good, the film that come before it, and this is sort of in a way you could argue this is a way in sort of a reboot or a sort of kind of a sequel. which it really doesn't hold up, of course, to the original Fist of Fury, but we'll get into it now. So the film starts with Lo Wei himself playing the inspector's character he played in the first movie, visiting Nora and Miao. And like I say, it's quite a nice touch as the film does completely follow on from when the last film ended. There's another film I will review, actually, just quickly going off topic. There's Fist of Fury 2 as well, and there's Fist of Fury 3. So like I've mentioned in other reviews, there's a lot of kung fu movies that I do want to get out there and give my opinion on. Just so many to get through. So you will notice Kam Chung here, sort of the fatter brother who was in things like Magnificent Butcher, Snake in the Eagle's Shadow. So the Inspector is going to send them to Taiwan after the events of the last movie to meet Nora's grandfather. We meet Jackie's character as like this street ruffian and urchin who bumps into these two Japanese and wants to beat them up. Him as a character is very cocky, he's very sure of himself, and as I say, very different to the kind of role sort of that Bruce Lee would play. And I think hats off to them, they didn't, like I say, just put a Bruce Lee type of clone in there, get Jackie to try and emulate sort of Bruce Lee's style. Jackie's character in this, he has morals, he knows injustice when he sees it. Again, quite brave that Lo Wei didn't go with that type of template that we have character. Hong here, Ying-chieh, who saves him, and you may remember as the Big Boss himself in the original Big Boss, as well as being some of King Hu's movies. So this guy says to Jackie that his boss wants to see him, right? The two Japanese Jackie bumped into were sent by the government and start working on border patrol. So the Japanese arrest this rebel at the harbour after he was arrived. Jackie steals a box from Nora and Miao, of course not knowing what it is, and for some reason they only notice the bag is lighter and doesn't have the box when they get back to the inn for some reason. Like they're carrying their luggage, and for whatever reason, Nora Miao and her comrades don't actually notice that it's missing or anything's gone until they actually get back to the inn. Jackie and his uncle have the box inside. They find Chen Sen's nunchaku. Jackie feels guilty about taking it. Like I say, his character does have a conscience, and he doesn't like people being bullied. He doesn't like injustice. He's against the sort of oppression, and that's sort of the traits that his character has. Hong is working with the rebels, and sort of their agent who got the rebels agent who got arrested at the pier. So the two Japanese are friends of Chen Xian's Okumura. They all have a banquet, and we learn that he has a school. And I love how he says to one of them, at one point, Chen Xian, I think that everybody's sort of licking his arse basically at this dinner table, and he's like, I think because I watched it subtitled. I've seen this film a number of times. And I watched it subtitled recently, and in the subtitles it says "you sweet talking brown noser," which I thought was quite a funny line. For some reason, everyone there wants him to dominate. For some reason, they want this guy to dominate the town or whatever it is, because he's the bad Japanese in this movie. So even though at first it seems he really didn't have... That's what's so funny about this bad guy, this villain. It seems at first he didn't really have much intention to do that, but everybody's sort of, yeah, go on, you take over. Everybody's sort of wanting him to just be this evil, corrupt boss for some reason. So Nora Miao meets her grandfather, he won't take her in. Then she gives a speech and he changes his mind. So, whatever. So Jackie goes to see the boss who wanted to see him earlier and want him to handle one of their gambling dens. As they can see, he's tough, he's got fighting skills, he's got potential, he's more than capable of, say, handling himself if there's a bit of a, if there's a bit of a showdown, a bit of a fight going on. And Jackie doesn't want anything to do with it, okay? He doesn't want nothing to do with it. He's like, I don't want to run your gambling den. It's not for me. But he's okay being a thief, but he doesn't want to bully innocents. So rather than saying okay, these guys that want him to sort of recruit Jackie, rather than saying okay, we just thought we had asked, but thanks for stopping by, they lock him in and decide to beat him up. As such is the way of many kung fu movies, but no, they want him to run a gambling den because he's got potential, as I say, and just because he doesn't want to do it, they're like, right, we'll just beat you up. Jackie can't fight as such, and he's more of a scrappy fighter here, even starts using the nunchaku here, albeit with much less style and grace, even hitting himself at one point with the weapons. So he gets beaten, and Nora and Hong randomly find him in a hole at the side of the road with the nunchucks. Jackie's uncle is like, we're going to return, and he is he's a good egg, he says. So the uncle knows one of Okumura's ladies who is actually Jackie's mother, though he doesn't know who she is and what she does for a living. This doesn't really go any further than that, really, the idea of his mum, what she does for a living, and they're trying to keep it private what she does, but that doesn't really go anywhere. It's a nice idea, he has got a mum and things like that, but it doesn't really add or go anywhere in terms of the plot. The uncle goes to tell her that her son was nearly beaten to death, but she can't see him, right? He said, you can't see him. So some people go to assassinate Okamura as he is having like a bath to no avail, and he fights in some very loose fitting panties. We learn that his daughter is practicing and going to be his bodyguard. So the Japanese go to the Seven Valleys school thinking it was them behind the hit on their boss, and the daughter basically just starts kicking all of their asses basically because she is tough, right? See Jackie a lot of the time as to take a back seat in this movie in terms of screen time, like I mentioned earlier. It's like at this point, so bearing in mind I'm watching the longer cut of the movie, Jackie Chan, he's very much, he's not front and centre a lot of the time. Like I say, a lot of the time, I'd say even going far as say maybe a quarter to a third of the movie, he's not actually on screen. So see, he really does have to take a back seat. They deny it, like it's them behind the hit, and Nora's like, okay, sorry, we must have made a mistake, right? Okamura's like, sorry, my bad, and gives them all a dinner invite. Half the schools invited don't turn up. The guy from Seven Valleys is like, I only came here because I was forced. So Nora Miao meets Jackie, who's just sitting by the ocean and fully recovered now, and she was like, look, why don't you learn some kung fu? Right? Why don't you learn some kung fu? And I'm like, that's a good idea. Yeah, let's teach him some kung fu. And invites him to her grandfather's, she invites him to her grandfather's birthday drink. So very interesting at this point, the birthday bash. At this birthday bash, you had the gang boss there, right? The gang boss is there who beat up Jackie earlier, who wanted to recruit him to work in this casino. And Jackie, who beat him up, right? And Jackie doesn't say or do anything, right? He's even standing side by side at one point next to this guy. Like the fight didn't happen at all, like all's forgiven. This guy who beat him up is at this banquet, at this party, and they're standing side by side, and neither of them say anything to one another, and it's really weird. And also Jackie's mum is there as well, and I thought it was established that the mum was not allowed to see Jackie Chan, but his mum is right there as well, right in front of him. I thought the whole idea was, like they established, she couldn't see him. So the grandfather's giving these speeches and Jackie is standing next to the mum he wasn't meant to meet and the gang boss who beat him up, and that is, like I say, that is all sort of forgotten about and ignored. So at his celebrations, they're watching like this opera show, which does slow the film down a bit, as it's, as if it wasn't slowed down already. The film actually slows down almost to a complete stop. It really, that's what is a shame about this movie. It really does lack some momentum. The pacing is a bit off, especially in this longer cut. And I can understand why there are shorter versions of the film in existence, because it doesn't really, the pace on it, as I say, is almost a standstill. It really doesn't have any urgency about it. There's no sort of let's get on with the plot. And at this point in the movie, it does feel like they're just sort of killing time. So Okamura turns up, goes to disrupt the show. Nora's grandfather intervenes and in doing so dies because of a heart attack or something on the stage, but he sort of dies standing up. So after this, Nora's like, I'm going to set up the Chin Woo school again so people can learn Kung Fu. Jackie still won't join. Even at this point, he still doesn't want to join. He still doesn't want to know any Kung Fu. He's quite happy doing what he does. Master Lin comes along, the guy who beat up Jackie, and is fuming. They change the name, and of course the rumble breaks out. After getting beat, he naturally runs to Okamura and starts stirring it up, as he always do in these movies. There's always a guy who tries to stir things up, isn't there? There's always some guy for no reason whatsoever, just wants to stir it up and, just cause trouble. So Okamura pays them a visit and he's like, you should have consulted me before changing the name. So this whole pain is about this whole point is like changing the name of the school. This is why he goes to pay this visit and it's like, and it just pays. It's like, you should have consulted me before changing the name of your school to Chin Woo. And this is his whole problem, right? They break the school sign. And it's worth noting that at this point in the movie we are 1 hour 15 minutes in. Right, we are 1 hour 15 minutes in. Jackie still doesn't want to learn Kung Fu. He's been beaten up. There's only about, like I said in this longer cut, about 45 minutes to go. So you're thinking, oh, surely something's got to happen soon. Jackie's not even had a full fight yet, right? He's not even had a full fight scene. So after a speech in the market, Jackie vows to learn martial arts finally, and manages to sort of write the massive symbol of Chin Woo School across his chest with just like a few drops of blood, which is nigh on impossible, which is quite impressive. I'd say it's impressive. He gets like a small bit of blood and he manages to write it all over his chest. So Yeah, I mean, I don't know how he done that. I mean, he writes it, not only that, he writes it perfectly as well on his chest. So they repair the sign in the market, and Jackie carries it back. At this point, they show stills of Bruce Lee from, and this is the weird thing, right? They show stills of Bruce Lee, but from Enter the Dragon, right? They show, I mean, why? What was no stills of Fist of Fury available? Like the film Lo Wei, the director of this, made. It was there no stills of Bruce Lee they could have used, and they used stuff from Enter the Dragon. And always like you have the spirit of Chen Zhen, right? So they start training people up, and for some reason they focus more on Jackie's training rather than anybody else. They'd rather train Jackie up than anybody else. And he becomes sort of their star pupil. He focuses on the free section staff rather than the nunchaku. He has to learn Mizong Fist, which is quite, what sort of Bruce Lee was using. So the Japanese go to arrest some of the rebels at the school. Never quite sure how they do find that out. They just get a random call. Jackie's uncle agrees to help the rebels escape and leads the way and do like a whole Spartacus thing where they get arrested and who's in charge, and they sort of all say they are sort of banding together so not one of them can be arrested. And again the film slows down once more, and at this stage like I said, at this point we only have about a half hour to go. The film slows down even more, and it just, when you think it's going to get going, they put the brakes on yet again. And so I said we're about half hour to go at this point. So Okamura has a plan, doesn't want them killed, he wants no trace, and they're invited to a conference about martial arts. Okamura wants to merge all the schools into one. Of course, a small contest breaks out. One guy loses, and him and his clan get slaughtered as they leave, and like by sword wielders below the residence. So it's like a massacre, basically. They get beat, and when they go to leave, there's these swordsmen laying in wait that sort of take them out. So Hong goes to take them on and does like an awesome sort of leg breaker on a guy when sitting on him. Hong loses, and then Jackie fights and takes on Okamura's daughter first. And this is really, like I said, the end of the movie. This is the only time we've actually got to see Jackie actually do anything in the way of like kung fu skill and taking on people. It's such a shame they sort of leave it and try to cram it all in the last 5 minutes. I mean, the fighting and choreography in this movie isn't bad. Believe me, I've seen much worse. But it's just a shame they've waited until now to really show us any. I always felt too at the ending where they are. It's like where the ending where it's shot. It's like there isn't even much room or floor space either. They shoot it in like a tiny. Why couldn't Lo Wei pick a bigger location? Jackie beats the girl, and he has to take on the big boss man and does a real lame Mizong Fist for some reason. So like I mentioned, we have a free section staff here used by Jackie, which to be fair does change into like a bigger nunchaku at one point. So he sort of does nunchucks, but it's sort of a bigger nunchucks when it sort of breaks. Nice moves here between Chan and Chen Zhen. Jackie starts to get beaten and cut by all the swordsmen waiting downstairs. Ends up stabbing Okamura with a sword using his feet. So they leave after beating the school, and just quickly ends with Jackie getting shot. And I'm guessing, to my mind, they all died because they had to sort of end it the way Fist of Fury ended. Like, let's have Jackie get shot as well. So he gets trained up in kung fu. He gets, finally redemption. He takes on the bad guys, and then he gets shot. And that's the end of the movie. The phrase "too little, too late" is what comes to mind when I think of New Fist of Fury and regarding the ending. But I have to cut it a little bit of slack. It's not awful. It could, but it's one of them films. It's not awful, but it could have been so much better. It could have been so much better, with Jackie actually not giving all. Jackie is not, as I mentioned, given all that much to do in the movie, which is a shame because, as I say, this was really. I think Shaolin Wood and Men was made the same year, but this was really sort of Jackie's first shot, big shot, being the leading man. And it's a shame that it really doesn't live up to what it's setting out to do. There's nothing groundbreaking about New Fist of Fury. It doesn't really compare to the original Fist of Fury. And I can see and I do appreciate they tried to give Jackie a very different character to Bruce Lee, and it wasn't like a Bruce Lee imitation or anything like that. But as I say, the only thing I think of with New Fist of Fury is just too little, too late, and it doesn't really, overall, it doesn't really hold up. It's not the best movie ever made. It's definitely not the best in sort of the Lo Wei period. So you could skip this one if you needed to, but it's worth checking out just for curiosity value to see sort of Jackie Chan in that sort of Fist of Fury mold. But it just unfortunately doesn't stack up to the original. So thank you very much indeed for watching. I hope you enjoyed the review. See you soon.
Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory.